Welcome to Arsenal Kids Podcast.
Hello and welcome to Arsenal Kids Podcast. My name is Madi and I'm joined by my co-host Ben. And it is great to have you join us for this episode.
Yes, hello listeners. Hello Maddie and welcome to episode number 155.
Thanks Ben. What will we be talking about in Arsenal Kids Podcast this time around?
Well, Maddie, in part one, it was a 5-star performance by the women's team as they took on Brighton and Hove Albion at Emirates Stadium in the Women's Super League.
A performance that was 5 stars with 5 goals to nil. And then in part two?
In part two, we head to Stamford Bridge where the men's team took on Chelsea in the Premier League.
A game that ended in a 1-1 draw.
But before we get there, just a quick reminder that we would love for you to help us to grow our Arsenal Kids community, so please share our podcast with others.
We would love for you to join us on this adventure together.
We would indeed, and Maddie, over 20,000 supporters were in attendance at Emirates Stadium on Friday evening, where interim head coach for our women's team, Renee Slagers, made 2 changes to the side that lined up the previous game, with Manu Zinsberger returning into goal and Beth Mead coming in for Mariona Caldente, who was left out of the matchday squad as a precaution.
And the Gunners started the game brightly.
It took just 3 minutes for Beth Mead to get our first shot on target with a straightforward header at the Brighton keeper. But with Brighton lining up with what appeared to be an almost overly attacking team, there was plenty of space on the wings, particularly on the left flank, where some good switches of play gave joy to Katie McCabe and Caitlin Ford, who were offered up far too much time and space.
And then our breakthrough came 13 minutes with a vintage piece of skill.
Vintage Beth Mead skill at that. Our number 9 received the ball on the right from Frida Mornham. She cut inside and then curled the ball off the post to make it
1-0 to Arsenal!
But this really was just the warm-up, because then the onslaught began. Leah Williamson then spotted a clever run from Emily Fox down the right flank before our American fullback played in Kim Little. She floated cross in, our skipper, from the side, and some Caitlin Ford magic had her scoring her 7th goal of the season so far, which what turned out to be a simple tap-in at the far post.
And then in a blink of an eye, we were 3 goals ahead.
Yes, unmarked at the edge of the area, our Norwegian midfielder Frida Mornham took a steadying touch and guided the ball beautifully into the top right-hand corner, which was simply the goal of the game. And she scored pretty much from the corner of the penalty box into the far corner of the goal.
But the chances kept on coming.
Ford was then cruelly denied by the inside of the post after taking a shot, spotting the Brighton keeper off her line. And our search for a 4th goal continued relentlessly. Mornham tried again from distance, but the keeper was equal to it. And then on the stroke of half-time, Mead took a shot at her 2nd from a free kick just outside of the box, but the keeper managed to just scramble the ball away. Determined to keep the game alive, the Seagulls seemed to make some tactical tweaks at halftime to try and even out the second half, with one of their attackers having a shot saved by Manu Zinsberger and another hitting the crossbar from almost identical positions.
But the lead meant that our head coach could make some early subs.
And one of those, Lena Hurtig, came on only to score herself from a corner routine. Her first goal in about a year, heralding an emotional celebration with the team. But it didn't end there, as the 5th was finally added from the penalty spot by Alessia Russo after Stina Blackstenius got past her marker and was hurled down, and the referee gave the spot kick, which Russo made no mistake over, ensuring our 5-star performance was punctuated with a 5-0 scoreline.
And what does this mean for the team, Ben?
Well, Maddie, it means we go up to 4th place in the Women's Super League ladder, still 7 points behind the leaders, but with plenty more games of the season to go.
Next up for the team, Ben?
Next up, Maddie, our attention turns to the Champions League, and the ladies are going to be off to Italy, where they're going to be playing Juventus in midweek.
Okay, well, let's leave it there for part 1, and we'll be right back after this with part number 2. Welcome back, and Ben, our men's team headed to Chelsea.
That's right, Maddie, and it was great for Gunners fans to welcome back Martin Odegaard into the starting lineup since a little while ago, an international break ago, where he suffered an ankle injury. And as both teams entered this game level on points in the Premier League, there was not a lot that happened inside the opening 25 minutes or so, with the only thing worth mentioning a Cole Palmer shot from well outside the area being palmed away by David Ryan.
But then our Gunners had the ball in the back of the net.
Yes, 6 minutes after a big chance had fallen to Martinelli, who could only fire it at the Chelsea keeper, Declan Rice took a quick free kick to Kai Havertz, and our German showed great composure to pick his spot past the keeper. He wheeled away to celebrate only for, after a couple of minutes, the celebrations to be cut short as VAR ruled that Kai was fractionally offside when he received the ball.
It meant the teams weren't into the half-time break on level terms.
And it was Martin Odegaard who unlocked the defence on his return, showing us exactly what we've been missing over the recent weeks as our skipper collected the ball from Thomas Partey on the edge of the area and faced with what was a congested penalty box. He dinked a delightful ball over the top for either Saka or Martinelli to run onto. Our Brazilian won the race, took a touch, and then he tucked the ball between Sanchez and his near post to send the travelling Gunners behind him into raptures and potentially setting us on our way to our fourth win in our last 5 trips to the bridge.
And not long later, we almost had a second.
Yes, Maddie, Jurriën Timber, he embarked on what was a mazy run from left back, beating 2 or 3 players and then letting fly from around 20 yards from goal. And he just missed out on getting it into the bottom corner. But a few minutes later and the scores were level again as Pedro Neto was given too much time and space in the middle of the pitch. And from 25 yards, he thumped a low shot in the bottom corner, as it was always going away from the keeper to be able to save.
We then tried to push for the winning goal.
We did try pushing, and 2 of those opportunities fell to Mikel Merino, who was a stud's length away from prodding home what was an excellent Saka cross before he got the faintest of touches on an Odegaard delivery that almost deceived the Chelsea keeper. With 4 minutes remaining, Sanchez in the Chelsea goal produced a good stop to prevent an own goal, with Trossard completely blazing the rebound over from close range, but his blushes were spared as the ball was pulled back for an offside in the build-up play. But in the final seconds, we nearly managed to snatch victory. Timber and William Saliba linked up on the left, and it was the centre-back who found himself in a position to flash across the box, which just got a nick off Trossard, who, if he had left it, it would have been an easy tap-in for Havertz to finish, but that ended up literally being the final touch of the game as the referee called time and the points were shared between the clubs on this occasion.
And what does this mean for the team, Ben, now?
Well, Maddie, having gone 4 consecutive Premier League games without a win since April of last year, the Gunners now currently sit 4th in the Premier League table after 11 matches being played. But worryingly, we are 9 points already off the current leaders, who are Liverpool.
And next up for the team?
Well, Maddie, we are into the final international break of the year for the men, as those that are on their duty for their country, they head off for a couple of weeks before regathering to face Nottingham Forest at the Emirates in 2 weeks' time. I think when we return, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that it will be the time that semi-automated offside is going to be introduced into the Premier League.
Okay, well, let's wrap it up for this episode. Thanks again for joining us at Arsenal Kids Podcast.
Before we sign off, we want to express our gratitude to you for your continued support. If you haven't already, follow, like, and subscribe so you don't miss us in the future. Remember, it's your love for the beautiful game that fuels our passion.
And we would love for you to spread the word about Arsenal Kids Podcast.
Yes, please share our podcast with other Arsenal kids you know and help us to grow this amazing community together.
We hope for you to join us on the pitch again soon.
Keep the spirit of the game alive, and until next time,
Goodbye.